Hi, I'm Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make one of my favorite cakes called a walnut roll. This is a cake I've been making probably for the last 35-40 years or so. And I thought I remembered which cookbook I had gotten it from. But when I went to look the other day, I was mistaken. So sadly, I have no idea where this recipe came from. But I do love it, and I think you might too. So the ingredients for this are 7 eggs, which I have separated. Yolks in one bowl, whites in the other. Incidentally, it's good to do it ahead of time since warm egg whites beat up to more volume than cold. And the only other ingredients are 1.5 cups of walnuts, which I have ground in a food processor, as you can see, to a fairly fine grind. I've got a teaspoon of baking powder and 3/4 cup of sugar. And the only other ingredients we're going to use in this will be 1 cup of heavy cream with a teaspoon of vanilla and some powdered sugar to finish it off. But we'll do that once our cake is baked. But first, let me show you a really quick way to line a cake tin. And I'm using a jelly roll pan, which measures approximately 10 by 14 inches. And I'm using non-stick foil to line this. I'm just pressing down lightly, and then I'm going to flip it over, and as you can see, it fits right in. I love this non-stick foil for so many things. And if you don't have this, you certainly can line your cake pan with wax paper. Simply oil the pan first, and then line it with wax paper and oil it again. I'm going to get some soft butter right now and just give this a light brush. So I've combined the sugar and the egg yolks in my bowl, and I've got the whisk attachment on the mixer, and I'm going to turn this on, let them mix, then I'm going to turn it up high and let it go for a few minutes until it's called what's formed a ribbon. How long this is going to take is going to depend on your mixer, but I'll show you the texture that you need as soon as we get there. Just judging by the way it's coming off the beaters, I can tell it's ribboning. Now, by a ribbon, it means when you drop it from a spoon like that, it forms a ribbon. It doesn't come off in drops. You see that? There's a nice ribbon. Now that we're there, we're going to just add in the ground walnuts and the baking powder. And that looks pretty good. So now we're ready to beat our egg whites. All right, these have, as you can see, risen to stiff peaks, but the mixture is still nice and glossy, which is what I want. So what we're going to do now is take this and mix about 1/3 of it into our egg yolk mixture to lighten it, and then we'll proceed to fold in the rest. So we'll just take about 1/3 of this, and this can just be mixed right in. As you can see, this egg yolk mixture is quite stiff. And by doing this in 2 parts like this, it allows me to fold the rest of the egg whites in without deflating them. And of course, the egg whites are the essential leavening in this. Because this cake has no flour in it, it's an excellent treat if you happen to have friends who are gluten intolerant. And it also would make a very good Passover cake. Just want to make sure I've gotten all of the heavier parts of this batter mixed in. And then I'll take the egg whites and just fold the rest of them in. And we're just going to fold until we don't see any more white streaks. Just take it from the middle, and it is just folding it over, which is why this technique is called folding, obviously. down to the middle and over. It's amazing that these simple ingredients bake up into really quite a lovely cake with lots of flavor from these nice walnuts. There, that looks pretty good. You don't want to overdo it since you don't want to deflate these egg whites altogether. So now I'm just going to pour this into my prepared pan. And I should mention I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. And this cake is going to bake, believe it or not, in just 15 to 20 minutes. So it's quite a quick thing to make. Just get all of that in. I'm just going to take the back of my spatula and smooth this out into a nice even layer. That slight whirring you hear in the background is from the oven. While it is a convection oven, that is not the convection fan. It's just the automatic fan that goes on with that. Make sure I get the corners even, and that looks pretty good. Okay, this is set to go in our oven, as I said, for about 15 to 20 minutes. Put it right in the middle there. And I'll set my timer for 15 and check it then. I did give this the additional 5 minutes, baking it for a full 20 minutes. I wanted it just nicely browned on top. You can see it's beautifully risen. Although as it cools, it's going to sink and pull away from the sides of the pan. So I'm just going to set it over on the stove, let it cool, and we'll finish it off with some whipped cream and powdered sugar. So to finish our cake, I'm going to whip together a cup of heavy cream and a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm using the whisk attachment from my immersion blender. Many immersion blenders today do come with this attachment, and it is the quickest way to do whipped cream or egg whites. It's just a great tool. Start it off at a slightly slower speed. I'll stop this for a second. The other advantage of doing this in the sink is that if it spatters, you've only got your sink to clean up. It's not going to go all over your counters or walls or whatever. It's a handy thing. Okay, that looks good and we're just there. Obviously, you don't over want to do it because you're going to end up with butter. So we'll set this aside and go and turn our cake out. You can see that the cake in cooling has pulled back. It shrunk a little from the sides of the pan, which is a good thing. It'll make for an easy release. So what I've done is I'm lining this with a sheet of wax paper, and I'm going to lightly coat this with some powdered sugar. Just so that our cake, A, doesn't stick to the paper, and B, the wax paper will enable me to roll the cake up. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm just going to flip this over, and I'll release the foil. And just gently pull this off. And there it is. This cream out onto our cake. And with an offset spatula, I'll just get it into a fairly even layer. I want to get it out to the edges. Just sort of get it as even as you can. That's pretty good. A little bit down in that corner. And I think we're good to go. All right, so what I'm gonna do is turn this board around, and I'm gonna roll it from this end. One little corner was not as neat as the other, so I'm gonna put that corner on the inside where it doesn't matter. Now, using my wax paper, just gonna help this to roll it up. And you want a fairly tight roll. It doesn't really matter if this cracks a little. I'm going to give it a nice sprinkling of powdered sugar. And as you get the wider roll at the end, the cake isn't going to crack anyway, so not to worry. We'll hold this in place to get a nice roll on that. And there we have it. Beautiful cake roll. Now what I'm going to do is get my platter. Just going to pick up the end of this wax paper and transfer my cake onto the platter. Now to finish the cake off, I've put a couple of pieces of paper towel here, and I could just take my powdered sugar and finish it off like that. But what I'm going to do to make it just a little extra fancy is put some paper strips across the top. This is just some wax paper that I've cut into strips. Obviously, you can use whatever kind of paper you'd like. Let's see, maybe get those a little more even. Okay, and now I'll do my powdered sugar. And if you don't have one of these handy shakers, obviously just put some in a small sieve and do that. And then I can take this off. And I've got a pretty striped effect. So that's one thing you can do to make it a little fancier. I think this is a cake you'll enjoy, and I hope you'll try it.